The main thing about the VA loan is you have zero down payment. So all you have to worry about are closing costs.
Mm.
That is huge. So on your typical loans, you have 3.5 to 5% of a purchase price for down payment, and then you have closing costs too. So with the VA loan, it cuts it in half. Now all you have to do is worry about closing costs. So when I talk about closing costs, I'm talking about your title fees, your lender fees, your property taxes, homeowners insurance, appraisal, survey. All these things are considered closing costs. Now, the great thing about my company is that we waive our lender fee. So now you have even less closing costs for a VA loan. So that's the main thing. People are always like, oh, I love that I don't have to put a down payment down. Um, the minimum the minimum score is 580. There are ways to get it where it's a little bit lower. It just requires more from you. So like you're gonna have uh, probably need some reserves. You probably have to put a little bit of a down payment down. Basically, you've got to strengthen your file since your credit score is a little bit lower, but 580 is pretty standard, right? You have the funding fee. The funding fee. So in normal loans, you have a PMI, which is a private mortgage insurance that lenders will give if you're not putting 20% down. Those are usually included in your mortgage payment. Well, with the VA loan, they won't put it in your mortgage payment. Instead, what they do is they have a funding fee that they put inside of your loan. So that way it makes your payment smaller. So you have no PMI, no down payment. They put the funding fee inside of your loan. So that's money you're not having to bring to closing. And then if you are a disabled veteran, let's say you're 100% disabled, they waive your property taxes. So it's just like your payment just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller, because ideally they want to make sure that, and I say they, but the VA loan is created to make it more beneficial to you, right? So those are the main components of a VA loan is the people things that people get excited about. No PMI, oh, that's amazing. Funding fee is wrapped into your loan. If you're a disabled veteran, property taxes are waived, no down payment. Now, if your credit score is above 620 and you want to save all your cash, you can actually couple it with a down payment assistance program. And you're like, how? Because there's no down payment, Angela. Well, you can actually use the down payment assistance towards the closing costs. And now you're at the closing table more than likely getting your earnest money back. So now I said you had closing costs. You may not even have that if you do down payment assistance. So a lot of times my veterans will like to couple the two so they don't have to bring any money to the closing table. But sometimes people will still want to bring the closing costs so that way they can get a lower interest rate. Because if you do down payment assistance programs, the interest rate will be a little bit higher. So those are your main components. Boom. That is the best thing about a VA loan. So now if we want to talk about different things that you need in order to qualify for a VA loan, right? So we're going to look for your certificate of eligibility. If you don't have it, we can take your DD 214 form and submit it on your behalf to get the certificate of eligibility. Now, sometimes we may have to have you reach out because I've had it where a veteran's social security number is switched at the end and they had to go and straighten it out. So sometimes things will happen like that, but we need your certificate of eligibility or the DD 214 form, and then we can go and assess that for you. If you have VA benefits, we'll need to see your VA award letter. So basically showing the income that you have. The certificate of eligibility will also show if you're exempt from the funding fee. So that's also awesome. So that way you don't have that funding fee being financed into your loan. And then the award letter for your benefits will also show the percentage of disability. So if you have 100% disability, that's on the award letter and we can waive the property taxes. So that's huge. Especially in Texas, because you have property taxes that can range from 2.8% of the purchase price. So that could be $600 or $700 in your payment, and that's waived. It's amazing. So those are things that we'll look for. Of course, if you are employed by the military, we'll look for your LES statement, because we'll want to see that you are employed. If you're relocating to Texas, we'll look at that to see, because your housing benefits will change based off of where you're going to live. So, we're just going to verify everything that you've submitted on the application to make sure that once you go under the loan, we'll be able to verify it. Okay. The other thing with if you're relocating, another thing that's great for our veterans is that we have a full virtual closing process to where you don't have to be at the closing table. You can actually be in transit. I actually had a couple who was driving to Texas and they pulled over on the side of the road, signed their closing documents, got back on the road and finished. Like that's how great this is. And so a lot of times our veterans will take advantage of that because you guys are moving, you're relocating, and this is an easy way to make it more convenient for you. Let's see. We talked about that. We talked 100%. We talked about the VA benefits. If you are wanting, a lot of questions that I have about VA loans is, can I have a cosigner? Do I have to be married to have somebody? VA loans, you can either do it by yourself, and we would have, if you're, well, Texas, if you're married, we have to take your spouse's debts, but you can either be on the loan by yourself or with your spouse. If you're not married and you want to have a cosigner, it's going to be a much larger down payment in order to do that. So the rule of thumb is the person that's on the loan has to be, of course there's exceptions, but the main thing is they have to be married. So let's see what else. I think that's I'm trying not to give like too much, Jaran. Is there like, reel me in, because I'm just like, this is a VA loan. This is, what are you thinking? Is there something that maybe I went over too fast, because I can use my terminology and it might be like too overwhelming. But if you want me to just keep going, I have a couple of other bullet points, but I just need to know, was that too much? Should I keep going?
No, go through your bullet points and we'll just, I'll pick up from where you are. I may,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So another thing with with VA loans is student loans, right? A lot of our veterans have student loans that are in deferment. And so the great thing about a VA loan is that, like with your normal loan, let's just say FHA or even a conventional loan, we have to take 0.5% of your student loan into your debts. So with a VA loan, we can actually take much lesser than that. So it actually makes it even better to where your debt to income can be higher as well. Then if your government loans, like student loans, or if you have child support or any type of government debt, if it's in default, it may prevent you from getting a VA loan. So you always want to consult with the lender on that. And we will run what we call as CAVers to see if your loans are in default, because if they're in default, you will not get an approval for a VA loan. And that's any government debt. And then the last thing is that the good news with a VA loan is that if you go through the home buying process and let's say you want to walk away because of something on the appraisal, there's always the VA escape clause. And I'll let Jaran elaborate a little bit later on that, but it just basically protects you. So in my opinion, the VA loan is like the best loan ever. And it makes sense as to why they created it for you guys is all. So if you have more questions or more detailed questions, or maybe you want to run your scenario by me specifically, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll be happy to, and I'll be monitoring the questions to see if there's anything that maybe I might have missed.
okay. Well, Angela, I do have a few questions when it
Okay.
comes to our military folks. Just give us a quick rundown of who qualifies for the VA loan.
Who qualifies? Our veterans, like military, active military,
Right.
retired military, Army, Navy.
And spouses, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
surviving spouses
Right.
that still have the award benefits. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is, thank you for, elaborating on that. My next question is, what are some of the hangups when it comes to, I guess, our military not utilizing their benefit? Is it a lack of knowledge? Is it because they're not well informed? What are some of the hangups you think that are going around? People not wanting to utilize a VA loan.
Well, if they don't have a certificate of eligibility,
Mhm.
um, that's huge, because you can be a veteran and maybe the time hasn't been long enough for you to be able to use it, or maybe you're discharged for various reasons where you can't use it. So the certificate of eligibility is huge. I think a lot of people aren't knowledgeable because I have clients tell me all the time where they're like, I thought I just had to go to Navy Federal and get qualified. I didn't know that other lenders could do VA loans. I'm like, yeah, there's a ton of us that do them. So I think it is knowledge for sure. Fear, like feeling that maybe you won't qualify. That's a lot of times people won't fill out the application because they're like, my credit score is not going to be high enough. I don't know if I make enough. All I have are military benefits, and I actually have clients that close all the time just with their VA benefits. So I think those are hangups that people have, is just more apprehension and fear of wondering if they'll qualify. And then I have, some people that will do it, but maybe they don't want to because they're trying to determine if it's going to be right now when they buy. Maybe they're in a unsettled situation, like as far as a marriage goes, because remember earlier I was telling you Texas is a community state. So even if you and your spouse are separated, we still have to pull your spouse's credit to see what debts they're reporting at, because Texas is a common law state. So we have to make sure that you can afford your mortgage and the debts and your spouse's debts. So sometimes that's a hang up because they don't want, maybe the spouse is like, no, you're not
Right.
pulling my credit. So that's something that we come across as well.
Okay. Well, that's some good news that I believe, any potential first time home buyer, I think that's information that's needed, right?
Yeah.
Another
You
question.
can buy a duplex with the VA loan. I've had a few people where they'll buy it, and they'll live in one side of it, and now they're instant investors because they have the other side that they can rent out, so it's a really good, it's not limiting at all. It actually just provides you more and more benefits.
Okay. Man, that's some great information. So if you guys are listening and you guys are just wondering, hey, where do I start? You have it right here, Angela Carter. So she's not
And we waive our fees. We waive our lending fees.
she's not associated with Veterans United or Navy Federal, whatever the case. You're here. You don't have to go to those. It's just really a name brand to really get more military folks in. But Angela Carter, a guarantee rate, she can assist and help you guys with that. And also, Angela, when people decide to utilize this benefit, right? I guess my question is, what do they have to lose by seeing if they qualify?
Nothing. Like you're not having to pay anything. I mean, you get a credit hit. That's it. But I think that that's worth it because I always tell people is that, it's the first step to get you to where you're trying to go. Because even if you're not ready, now I can tell you what to do to get ready. So either way, it's a step forward, is my thought.
See, it's all about making a decision. People just
Yeah.
have to decide. Like you said, it doesn't cost anything. And like I said, if you have served, if you are a spouse and your spouse has served, I mean, you owe it to yourself and your family. Uh, Angela Carter, she also mentioned building generational wealth. You can purchase a multifamily up to 4 units with the VA loan. You
Mhm.
know, inflation being at an all-time high, people are trying to figure out different ways of producing income to make ends meet. This is a perfect opportunity to add some units to your portfolio.
Yep.
So just something to think about. And